So I had every intention of doing this episode last week, and then sitting here getting everything set up, had my buddy Eric on here, and I started talking, and all you heard was, needless to say, my equipment took a dump and didn't want to work correctly. So I have since figured out the error of my ways, and even did a little bit of add on to it, and now it works a lot better.
You upgraded.
I did. Well, kinda. I added a piece of equipment that kind of boosts the sound levels a little bit, and I figured out that the equipment that I'm using, I actually have to download software to my computer. Strange, living in the 21st century and you got to download crap to a computer. But we got to figure it out. I think the audio is a lot better.
You sound a lot better than last week because last week I felt like I was talking to some iRobot thing.
Yeah, I might actually add that video in here, just kind of overlay it right here, just so I get a kick out of it now. Didn't get a kick out of it then. But I will give a shout out to, not that I get paid for this and not that they will ever hear this, but I will give a shout out to Sweetwater Sound because we're fortunate enough to live in the same area as them. So I can just go right over to their. So this is what happened. So beginning of the week, I think it was Monday, on my lunch break, I took my cord that connects my mic to the interface. I took that in. It's an XLR cord. Took that in thinking, maybe this is the problem. I am not tech savvy by any means. I know enough to be able to record talking to this thing here, and that's about it. And I can turn on a computer. So I take the cord in, and they're like, yeah, your cord's fine. Awesome. And they said, did you bring any of your other stuff? And I said, nope, left the mic. I said, I've got a Shure microphone and I've got an interface. I left them both at home. And they said, oh, well, just bring those in and we could test them out here too. I said, all right, cool. So Friday afternoon after work, I had everything all packed up, took it all out there, and they're like, why'd you bring this in? Because you told me to. I said, well, you could have just left it all plugged in and we could have tested it for you over the computer. I'm like, awesome. Thanks. Appreciate that. They said, but that's fine. Let's go upstairs, and don't know that you're technically allowed to come upstairs with us, but we'll bring you up there and we'll test it out. I'm like, sweet, let's do it. So we did, tested it out, and they're like, so do you have this software downloaded on your computer? And I said, nope. And I'm like, what's your problem? I said, okay. So come home, get everything hooked back up again. Tested it out because they updated it while I was there. So I was testing it out and it was still making a little bit of the. So I downloaded the software and all of a sudden, instantly, it works like it's working right now.
It's amazing though, because a lot of times, even our vehicles, they'll say, well, there's some interface in your engine that's messed up. So there's a part of the computer that's messed up in the engine. So that's why it's not working. But
Yeah.
again, it's amazing.
Yeah. So we got it squared away. But, there were things I wanted to discuss last week. So we're just going to discuss it now. I think before we get started, I got to do my weekly ritual and do a little shout out here to some people that support us, some great friends. So we'll just get that out of the way first. So, good friend of mine and of Eric's, Mr. Ben Freeze, he's got two separate organizations. One's his 501c3 nonprofit, and that's called the Freeze Foundation. Eric, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think you might know a little bit more about it than I do, but basically this organization, he does this in order to receive donations to be able to provide training to churches, businesses, whatever the case may be. And the money that he receives helps pay for the instructors, helps pay for the equipment, all that stuff. And great organization. I would imagine at some point he'll probably have plans to to grow that. I'm not going to speak for him, but I'm sure he'll have plans to do something more with that in the future. But if you want more information, his website is the Freeze, Fries. It's like fries, only it's freeze, foundation.org. He's also got his consulting company, and it's freezeconsulting.us. That's the business that does the training. So they have instructors that are certified by NRA and by the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy. They teach people how to shoot firearms. They teach, and it's not even just firearms, like how to use pepper spray. I don't know. It don't do a whole lot of like self-defense type stuff, right? It's mostly like
right now.
communication, how to use these things.
More common sense, and how to spot um, danger when it happens.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah. So
also
those
go ahead.
Oh, so those are the two big ones. Again, if you want more information on either one of them, the Freeze Foundation is thefreezefoundation.org. And then for Freeze Consulting, if you want somebody to come to your church and do some training, it is freezeconsulting.us. Last one that I got to give a shout out to is my good buddy Jason White. If you live in Indiana and you are a coroner or you have anything to do with the coroner field, he is coming to Indiana. He will be at the coroner conference this year. I believe it is in June or July. Not 100% on that, but he will be here doing that, and that is open to all coroners within the state of Indiana. So highly recommend you attend that if you have not heard him talk before. He does an amazing presentation. I will be down there. I will not be participating in the coroner conference, but I am going to catch up because I haven't seen him it's been a few years. Guy's awesome. I don't know how he has time to do anything. I think he's got one podcast now that's Into the Fire. He just announced that he was going to start doing another podcast. As far as I know, he still does stuff with the First 48. He's still a full-time homicide detective, and he still manages to spend time with his family and keep up to date on all of his social media stuff, which more power to him because I'm about to delete every single social media site that I have. I'm done with it.
He reminds
Yeah,
me of
those are the
a
two people.
couple of our
Check them out.
friends. He reminds me of a couple of people we know. Ben's being one of them. Ben
Yeah,
works 24/7, and I've told him
yeah,
this, and I know he wouldn't mind me. I mean, the dude works from the time he wakes up till the time he goes to bed, and he still has time for all of his kids, and it's just
yeah.
amazing. And then our good friend, late Eric Balliet, he's the same way. I mean, that dude
Oh
spent
yeah.
every waking moment helping others and being a family man. Yeah, that just that's what reminded me of that.
Yeah, Eric was full-time firefighter for the city. He was deputy coroner. He was a reserve officer.
Reserve lieutenant.
Missing I'm missing something.
He was
There was
also a
something
camp
else.
counselor for a burn camp or burn
He was a
victim
camp
camp.
counselor. Yeah, it
Yes.
was for Great Lakes Burn Camp up in Michigan. He was also a certified pastor. He could do weddings.
Did he do the EMS thing too? Was that the program that goes like takes EMSs down south, I think?
Are you talking about with Brian Peterson?
Yeah, I thought they
Yeah,
started
I
that
don't think
together.
so. No, that was yeah, yeah. No,
Okay.
I don't think he was a part of that. In
Okay.
fact, I don't know that Brian had really started a whole. We've had Brian on the show before where he's talked about that program, and
Mhm.
if you're not familiar, go back like 40 episodes and it's down there. But Brian's talked about that organization before. Great organization too, but I don't believe Eric was part of that.
Yeah, I remember Brian talking about it and talking about Eric. So I don't know if Eric was kind of like maybe just helping him spitball the idea, but I just remember
Possibly,
that.
I know I know there for a while. I think he still does on every ambulance that goes to like Mexico or whatever, another outside of the US. I know he still puts the sticker in memory of Eric Balliet on the trucks, which I think is awesome. He used to do that. I think he still does, but I know he used to for sure.
One story I will say with Eric, he worked patrol on second shift with me, and one night we went and we got a call about a guy trying to burn his parents' house down. He's having a mental problem, but um, they said the guy was actively trying to light the house on fire. Eric was right there with me, and he went in just side by side with me, and I think yeah, him and I were in a number of altercations, made a lot of really good arrests, and he was always just right there, and that's just why, I miss him to this day. Eric, yeah,
So
Eric,
So Eric, he started on the department that I was on, the department that I was on for 10 years. Now he had left several years before I had gotten on, but he would still come in on a regular basis and he would just shoot the shit with us. And I could sit there, him and I would sit there for hours and just talk about stuff. But I also worked dispatch, as you are aware. I worked dispatch for a little while, and whenever an officer or somebody would say, "Hey, we need you to contact the coroner, the on duty coroner," because I worked nights, I'd be like, "Oh, okay." I had this spreadsheet, and it would tell me who was the on duty coroner for that night, and I would always get really excited when I saw Eric's name on there because I would always give him crap. It's a recorded line, but I didn't care. I'd always
Mhm.
give him crap whenever I'd call. So I'd call him. It'd be like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and he'd answer the phone. Oh, and I'd say, "Good morning, Sleeping Beauty." And then he'd perk right up and we'd have a great conversation. Then be like, "Oh, yeah, there was a reason why I called you. You're needed." Hell of a guy. Miss that guy terribly. So there's a lot going on right now. There's a lot of evil going on. So I know you listen to Sean Ryan show. Have you listened to his latest episode with, can't remember the guy's name. It was a priest.
What
So
was his name?
he had two latest episodes come out, and one was Father Chad Ripperger. That's a good
Mm,
one. That's one talking about spiritual warfare and
yes.
possessions and all that stuff. But then he has another one with Schlepp, and Schlepp is this 22-year-old that has made it his life mission to rid the video game Roblox of
Hmm.
all child predators. His life mission is to hunt every single one of them down and make sure that they all go to prison. And he is having a heck of a time with it. Like, Roblox has sent him a cease and desist, which, I mean, I'm whatever. I'm going to say whatever I want. I don't even care. They've sent him a cease and desist. It's not like he's telling anything like it's a lie. Like, everything he's saying is true. In fact, one of the main people that produced, because if you're not familiar with Roblox, it's a game and then you can make other games in there. This is
Hmm.
how bad it is. Somebody has been in there making games of Sandy Hook where you can go in and you can be the shooter for Sandy Hook
Yeah.
and you can go in and kill kids. They've made a 9/11 game where you're the pilot of the airplane that crashes into the World Trade Center. They did uh they did the Combine, redid Combine, where you're one of the shooters.
Columbine. Yeah.
Yeah, what did I say? Combine? Combine is
Combine.
what you do for football. My bad. They keep doing all these like disgusting games within that game, and
Hmm.
Roblox just lets it happen. So then he sits there and he talks about how, he's managed to um currently there's like 130 active lawsuits against Roblox right now because of child predators. 130. First of all, that's a lot.
A
That's
lot.
not near as many as there should be, but it's still a lot. I think he's tracked down he's had at least 6 of them arrested, I believe, 2 of them convicted. So he's doing a great job, and props to him because he's 22 years old. You could tell on the episode he had, I'm assuming he had his attorney with him just because they've been having issues with Roblox and wanting to fight some of this stuff. I got red fuzz on my shirt. And he also had his dad there with him. And he was sharing a lot of things that were very tough, that I mean would be tough for somebody like, man, more red fuzz. Somebody that something that would be tough for you and I to even share, and he's sharing it at 22 years old, and he's obviously getting choked up over it. And I it's tough because this whole child predator, sex trafficking, human trafficking thing is just getting, one kid is too much. One person getting trafficked is too much. But this is happening every day. And I think one of the things that I want to make my life mission is I want to bring more of this to light. I want to talk about it more because I don't feel like we talk about it enough. I feel like, you know, I know people that still let their kids play that game. And it's one thing if they're playing it and I don't, I know like Fortnite, you can disable the chat so that you can't talk to anybody and they can't talk to you. You can just run around and play it. I don't know if you can do that with Roblox. I'm assuming you probably can't. Yeah, probably not. But if that would be one thing. If you could disable it and not have to worry about any of that, then okay, whatever. Being a parent, disable that feature on the game and move on with your life. But that's not an option with this game for whatever reason. And then they created this reporting button on their website because I think Europe made them do it, and apparently it doesn't even work. So I'm telling you, you're just better off not letting your kids play that game.
Yeah, I mean, I've dealt with kids for years in law enforcement, and a lot of times when the kid was out of control, I'd go to their room. I'm like, "Hey, can I see their room?" And there'd be the TV, be whatever game system in there, be it PlayStation, Xbox, and then I would look at the games. And it'd be, Call of Duty, it would be Grand Theft Auto, all these games. I'm like, "Here's your problem." Or it'd be the online games. Well, I would just tell them, like, "You need to look at what your kids are playing." They're like, "Well, what's so bad about it?" And I would read the back, and I would start listing everything on there. We're both parents, and my kids, I let them play on the Switch, nothing's online. It's the old school games that we grew up with where it's you versus beating the game. There's nothing you need to do online. It's literally just for enjoyment, and I think it's a lot better that way.
Yeah, so there are obviously games that I won't let my kid play. Now, with that being said, when I was growing up, you're right. I started off on Super Nintendo, then went to a Nintendo 64, and
Mhm.
then got a PlayStation and started moving up. And when I got to Xbox, that's when you know I think I was a teenager or whatever. That's when the whole online gaming started becoming a thing, and that's when like Modern Warfare and all those different games started coming out. But I know there are some people. There's a lot of people that say those games are causing some of these issues. I don't think it's necessarily so much of the game. Grand Theft Auto, maybe. I think Grand Theft Auto is more of an adult game because it's very realistic in a lot of ways. But I don't think it's so much the game that's the problem. I think it's more of the people that are talking in the game. So if you're playing live, if you're playing Call of Duty live and everybody's mic'd up and everybody's talking, there's no filter on anybody, anything that they're saying. So they could talk about whatever they want and for the most part get away with it. Allegedly, there's admins that are paying attention to that and they can boot people if you cuss too much, but I just turn all of it off. I'm not saying go let your 7 or 8 year old go and play Call of Duty or whatever, but I think that is part of the problem. I think the other problem is maybe kids spend too much time. Now, granted, my kid probably spent way too much time in front of a screen today, but it's the weekend. It's not like he does that every day. But if your kids are playing computer games or Xbox or PlayStation all day long, that's all they're doing. Like, they barely have enough time to get up and go to the bathroom, and you got a problem. And if you're not sure how to fix it, I'm going to recommend that you start reading some of Jocko Willink's books. Have your kids read his Warrior Kid books, because I'll tell you what, Cody and I talked about this the last time him and I recorded,
Hmm.
and those books changed my kid because he fell in love with jujitsu. We first started reading it a little over a year ago, and he loves jujitsu. Like, he's getting ready to go from a white belt to a gray belt. He's excited for it every week. He actually wants to do it more. We just don't
Hmm.
have time to do 2 days a week of it. But he loves it. And honestly, I think that's something that all kids need to learn how to do, especially with the shit that's going on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we were kids, the Nintendo was something that you did when it was raining out or if the weather was so bad. That's what you did because our parents didn't let us stay in the house on a nice day. It was like, get out,
Well,
go.
I didn't want to stay inside. In the summertime when I was growing up, we were kind of talking about this earlier. I would, from the moment I woke up, which was usually right when the sun was coming up, I was outside on my bike and I was gone, and I'd be gone all day. And friends and I, we just ride around the neighborhood all day long. And when I got a little bit older, I think I was probably, I don't know, 10 or 11. We had a park down the street. When I said down the street, it was probably like 3 or 4 miles down the street. And we would ride our bike down to that park, not the safest park in the world, but we'd go down there, and it was Hamilton Park. And we would play basketball, we'd play baseball, and we'd be there all day long. And then soon as it started getting a little bit dark, or the street lights started to come on, or they were getting ready to come on, we'd hightail it home so we could eat dinner and go to bed, and we'd do it all over again. Kids don't do that these days.
No, no. I mean, kids can't figure out, the simplest things, but we would always figure things out. My friends and I, we kind of lived in the outskirts of town. I grew up down in Huntington and we had a wood line that we would go to and we would build forts. I mean, that was just kind of our
Oh, yeah.
thing.
Yep.
And, we'd get them so high, we're like, okay, well, how do we get up there easier? We figured out how to make a rope ladder just out of knots. And a lot of us were scouts. We were in the Boy Scouts and we knew all that stuff. So I'm like, oh yeah, we just need a bow line here. We need a square knot here. This will work. Just all the different knots. And the only reason we did that was because the dad who owned the property, one of my friends, he wouldn't let us nail anything into the tree.
Mhm.
So we had to tie
Yeah.
all the planks and everything, which I know that would make a lot of us cringe now as parents. Like, your kid's 20 feet up in the air and that thing's being held up by knots. But I mean, they were good knots. And I just
I
think,
mean, I used to climb trees 20, 30, 40 feet up in the air as a kid.
Mhm.
I didn't care. And my parents probably cared, but it was a good time. It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun because you're like, okay, well, we need a zip line that's going to go from here to here. And then you get it set up like, okay, well, who's going to test it? And you try to
You're
get
right.
the one friend like, oh, I'll do it. Cause then I double dare you or triple dog dare you. And then that one friend didn't want to, lose face. So a lot of times that was me.
Same. Yeah, but I mean, like, in the summertime, parents had to go to work, so we got left home alone all the time. I think my parents started leaving me home alone when I was like probably around 10, somewhere
Hmm.
around there.
Yeah.
We didn't have cell phones, so we couldn't text, couldn't call and check up on us. We had landline phones. I didn't get my first cell phone until I was in high school, and I had to pay for it myself. So now it's just like, everything seems so uncertain. Like, you won't I think for me, it might be a little bit different where I live, but it's almost like you can't leave your kids home alone. You can't trust them to go. It's not that you don't trust them, it's we don't trust other people to let them
Hmm.
go a mile down the road, let alone 5 miles like I did. We've got all this crap going on with child trafficking, terrorist sleeper cells that we have no idea what they're going to do. Got all this political violence and other violence, not to mention distracted drivers, like just all this crap. We can't trust anybody. We can't trust that our kids will come home safe.
Yeah, it's and I find it hard. I'm trying to give, I've got a teenager, trying to give her the freedom, but at the same time, I want to protect her. So it is kind of a balancing act of, well, I'm gonna give you a little bit of freedom here and let's see how it works. But at the same time, I've got that great thing called Find My Phone, where at any
Yeah.
point I can see where she's at, and she knows it,
Yeah.
and she doesn't really mind it now.
Right. Yeah. So I guess that brings up the question of what do we do? Like with all of this stuff going on, how do how do parents be parents? How do they let their kid grow up while still paying attention to them and knowing what's going on and making sure that they're safe? What do we do?
I think I like for me, I talk to my kids and I talk to my family. So great example, we go to the mall. My wife and I
I'm
have
sorry.
no, it's all right.
Willingly?
Nah, they won't go. Yeah, they won't go unless I'm there with them. So, we all have a plan, and it's always get basically, what I call get off the X. Whatever's happening right there, get your family away from there. And I can't tell you what to do in an emergency. If it's me and if it's, an active shooter, once I know my family's safe, then I'm going back in and I'm going to take them out. I'm going to take them out. But I'm a police officer, so I mean that's my job. And it's taken years of talking where I'm like, look, this is what I do. And I was talking to my daughter the other week. We went to the mall, just her and I, because she needed to get something there. And I said, hey, we're just walking along. I'm like, we need to have a talk. Like, we're gonna change things a little bit. I said, if anything bad happens, you just stay behind me and just stay right with me. Like, okay. But having those conversations, I think, is important with your family.
Yeah. So I don't remember if I've shared this story on this show or not before, but I'm gonna share it now. So about it was a few years ago now. It was after COVID. I want to say it was like 23. Family and I went to the mall, and wife wanted to get her. Normally, she goes to like her cousin who's a stylist, or she goes somewhere else. But she decided this day, she was desperate to get her hair done, and she was going to go to J.C. Penney's to do it. So the way our mall is set up is J.C. Penney's is kind of on the back side. I guess it's on the east side of the mall. And there's a top floor and a bottom floor. And you can actually go in. They both have entrances. You can go in on the bottom floor. So we went in, and as soon as you walk in the door, turn left, and that's where the hairstyling is done at. And then you can keep going through, zigzag through Penny's, and you can go directly to the food court. So my kiddo at the time and I decided we would go to the food court and get some lunch. And then we'd go, they've got an arcade in there. And we decided we'll go into the arcade, play some games, and figured by that time she'd be done with her hair. So we do that. Uh, we're sitting in there. We just finished eating and went into the arcades. He played, I mean, the arcades were kind of dumb, but he played a couple games. We get out and we start walking back to where my wife is at. And as we're walking through there, we I stepped outside for just a minute. So kind of walked right by, stepped outside for just a minute. And in the time that we left the food court to the time I stepped outside, it'd probably been a minute and 30 seconds, maybe 2 minutes. And all of a sudden, there's this huge group of people that are sprinting out of these doors. And so I keep him close to me. And I'm like, what is going on? And they're like, they're shooting. I'm like, who's shooting? Where are they shooting? They're like, they're in the food court. So I picked my kid up. I start going through and I turn into where she's getting her hair done. And, everybody's still sitting there. Business as usual. Nobody knows anything's going on. And I'm standing there holding my kid and I'm looking around frantically trying to find my wife. And finally, one of the employees, who's laughing at me, by the way, she looks at me and she goes, "Sir, do you need something?" I said, "I'm looking for my wife." And Beth stands up. She goes, "I'm right here. What's wrong?" And I said, "They're shooting. We got to go." Needless to say, that employee wasn't laughing anymore as soon as I said that, and everybody started dipping out. But it's the same thing. And I think, okay, I want you to put your law enforcement cap on. So I used to think this way. I don't anymore. I'm just going to preface this now. I don't care. I don't care. But I think a lot of people that are law abiding citizens, they want to carry their firearms wherever they go. They want to conceal. Great. I'm all for it. But you see that big old circle with the gun in the center and a big slash through it and it says no firearms allowed. No,
Mhm.
no firearms, no knives, no ifs, no buts, no nuts, no coconuts, whatever. So people don't carry their firearms in there, except for the ones that want to break the law and don't give a shit. And that was me at that time. I did not carry because I'm a law abiding citizen. I don't want to get in trouble, whatever. That's just how I've always been. That's changed. That's not the case anymore. I don't really care. The only thing that has kept me from carrying as often as I'd like is I would like to train more and be more confident because it's been a while since I've done some training. Outside of that, unless it's a courthouse, police station, or some place that I could federally or be held accountable by the state, I'm carrying. It's happening. So I guess I'm looking for a law enforcement perspective on this, and
Yeah.
then I'll get the Eric Foster perspective on it after that.
I mean, so private properties, I've ran into this a couple of times. I've been approached by security guards and employees of these gun free zones. Had had hands put on me before, and I just stay calm about it, and I explained, yes, I'm armed and I'm a police officer. Now, it's not a law if you're carrying. Now, like hospitals, okay, I get that. Courthouses, definitely not. Federal buildings, I'm not even allowed to carry in. Even if I'm testifying, I cannot carry inside of a federal building. So you just have to be very careful about where you're carrying. The worst that's going to happen is you're going to be asked to leave. And if you don't leave, then yeah, you could get charged. So the best thing to do if someone, you know, tells you like, well, this is a gun free zone or whatever. I think even our ball diamond or a ball, the tin caps downtown, you're not allowed to carry there.
Yeah,
And even as a law enforcement, the last time I was there, I had to sign in saying I was carrying and I had to tell them where I was, which I understood it to a point. And so, yeah, I'm just, for me, I'm carrying, I'm going to protect my family. And there are very few instances where I'm not carrying. But again, if you're going to carry, yes, you do need the training to carry and
100%.
you need to, take a hard look at yourself going, would I be able to engage someone in an active shooter situation? I can't remember his name. The kid that stopped the active shooter in another mall, he did the bill drill, which was literally just, I think it was 10 shots, and they were all in there. That was under stress. I think it was a good distance away, but that kid trained to do that. But there's a lot of things that you can do. You got to put the time and the effort in. Technology is now caught up. I'm not getting paid to speak for them, but Mantis has come out with some great equipment. I have the Glock 45 Mantis right here, and I have a red dot because I'm switching over to red dots this year on and off
Calm it
duty.
down, YouTube. Calm it down, YouTube. That's a fake gun. Don't freak out.
Yep. This is not a real firearm. This is a laser dry fire. Oh, yeah, I didn't know if I was going to get in trouble for that.
Nah, I don't care.
Yeah. But anyway, no, it doesn't. This isn't a real firearm. Doesn't the slide doesn't work. It's literally just a dry fire, and it shoots a laser out, and it'll grade you. But it's a good practice tool to have. But you have to, you have to think about how are you going to carry? There's different options. There's sling bags now that you can carry. Do you do inside the waistband?
Those are called satchels, and Indiana Jones has one.
Yes. Yes, I've had many arguments about that. They're not man purses if they have a gun in them or a knife or archaeological equipment.
Let's talk about the concealed carry holsters. So I know you and I have had this conversation before. I think a lot of guys, dads,
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about you and myself.
Me. Yep.
I think we've all had, I know I've tried several different types of concealed carry holsters in the past, and I'm not even going to name any names, but there's one that's super common that they're usually pretty cheap and they've got tons of different ones. I've actually had them fall apart on me before, which is
Mm-hmm.
real fun. But I have yet to find a holster that's somewhat comfortable. And I've wanted to typically I will keep it like I
Mm-hmm. Do you freeze up? I'm by myself. I'll just stand by. So obviously we're having technical difficulties here. Someone lost power. Are you back?
I'm back. Sorry
We just had
about
a
that.
Mantis commercial.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we've
I
been
know
getting
what else
some
you.
we've been getting some storms rolling through here and lost power there for a hot minute. So that was wild.
That was funny. Literally, you just like and I was like, dude, there. Like, all right, I guess I'm on my own.
Yeah, I don't even remember what we were talking about.
Well, I know we were talking about concealed carry, where you carry,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, so I that's the other thing too. Like I want I want something that isn't bulky, something that and I get it. Like there's going to be some bulge from it. But I'm looking for a holster that's comfortable and that's not super bulky. Any ideas?
it depends on the firearm that you're going to use, too, because it doesn't matter what holster you use. You know, I mean, I can hold. This is a Glock 45. I mean, you're not concealing this thing. And
Sure.
the funniest dudes that I see are the ones that carry they're carrying with skinny jeans on. And it's always like the Glock 19 or the
Yeah.
Glock 17. I'm like, dude, who are you kidding? But
So
I right now.
my carry is a Springfield Hellcat. First
Mhm.
of all, I love that firearm. I think it's absolutely amazing. I've had it since it came out. So it's not it's a compact, right? It's not a full
Mhm.
size firearm. So it's not like I'm carrying my CZ, which is like the size of a Glock 19.
Yeah. And I carry the Sig Sauer 365 XL, and I think those are phenomenal firearms. I've carried that nationwide. I've I've checked it in while flying, which is super easy to do as long as you know the rules. Go to the TSA website, and it's literally a how to check your firearm in, and you can take it anywhere in the country that you want. But you always got to read the laws in the state that you're going to because they change from state to state. But I really think it's just your choice of firearm that you're carrying. But there's also, do you carry inside the waistband, which this is just my Amazon special holster that I got from my SIG, but then I also have my outside because you never know what you're going to need. And I think you just have to give yourself options. And also, it's over there somewhere, but the sling bag, I carry that for the summertime. And all three options work, but you have to know what you're carrying. And then I see people that have like ankle holsters.
Yeah.
I think those are a big waste of time. The only time I am an advocate for an ankle holster is at some formal function where maybe carrying a firearm on your waist is not an option. Like if you're wearing a suit, then I do have an ankle holster for that specific situation.
I will say when I'm riding the motorcycle, I do have a thigh holster that I've worn, and that is super comfy. It's easily accessible. It looks
Mhm.
stupid as hell, but I love it.
Mad Max.
Well, yeah, yeah, 100%.
Like someone out of Mad Max. And no, I mean, I get it. I have seen someone on a motorcycle and it looked like their firearm was about ready to fall off because they were holding it right here at the
Yeah.
4 o'clock. And I called out to him like, "You're gonna lose that." But no, I really think you know, I have buddies that carry appendix. I can't sit, like we said, dad bods, and I can't figure out the physics of it. I don't know how some guys do it. I'm like, doesn't that hurt? But really, it just boils down to what is comfortable for you. To me, I like 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock carry, and I like that because I can still fight if I need to. Whereas appendix, you gotta pull your shirt up, and then you got to go for your firearm, or you have to learn the hook technique with your thumb, and you got to
Mhm.
thumb your shirt, which is what the technique that I use. But I like that because I can use the thumb to get to my firearm, but I still have this hand to fight, and that's kind of getting into that Emerson Pat McNamara spear technique, splayed fingers outside 45. But that's just stuff that you need to learn. And again, jujitsu, martial arts, Krav Maga, whatever you can get into, I'm a huge advocate for.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think the big thing is before anybody, if you're worried about, what kind of holster you want, and all this fancy stuff, I think the first thing you should really worry about the most is training, doing some sort of
Mhm.
training, whether that's, signing up with the Freeze Foundation or the Freeze Consulting and doing some training, or, you're just going to the shooting range and you're shooting some target shots, whatever the case may be, or purchasing the Mantis. I think that should be the first thing. But I'm going to tell you that if your argument for not carrying is because of let's say you're a Christian like me or like Eric, and you're like, it's not the Christian way though. We need to turn the other cheek. I'm going to tell you this right now. On that episode, that latest episode of Sean Ryan, where he's interviewing a priest, the priest carries and he does exorcisms and he carries. I'm going to tell you right now that it is not an option, in my opinion. These are my beliefs, but I think a lot of some of the big name Christian podcasters out there will agree. We don't have an option when it comes to fighting evil. We have a calling to fight evil. And that calling looks different for everybody. But I'm going to tell you right now, at the end of the day, the 10 commandments say thou shalt not murder. It doesn't say thou shalt not kill. And there's a huge
Yes.
difference. Murder is innocence. Murder is killing somebody that is innocent for whatever reason. Killing is can be anything. It can be defending yourself, it can be defending other people, it can be defending kids. It can be for any reason that is a righteous reason. We have a duty and a responsibility to fight against evil and to protect innocent. And we should.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And, I'm I'm a firm believer and I'm a Christian, but my favorite Bible verse that I think coincides with what I do, what I've done, be it from military combat in Iraq to 22 years in law enforcement, Isaiah 6:8 always is my favorite. If I'm ever get the time to do my sleeve, Isaiah 6:8 is going to be here. And, that is literally, then I heard a voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send?" And I said, here I am, send me. And that literally has been my philosophy because I don't, I don't like bullies, never have. And I don't like seeing people in danger. And I'm always, Tyler's been there, I've been there, literally just getting people out of hell. That's been our jobs for the past years since I've known you. That's what we do. And be it EMS, firefighter, dispatcher, police, military, that's what that is what we do. And it's not, and like you said, it's not murder.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
ridding the world of evil.
Yeah. And at this point in our lives, in the year 2026, there is more evil now than I think there has ever been. And I'm not the only one that has voiced that. I think I think social media has played a big role in keeping us updated on the evil that's going on, but I think it's also played a big role in creating more evil. And I think it's really important that you not only train yourself and get yourself prepared. And I'll tell you, when I first started in public safety, I did security at a hospital. And I did this when I started that job because the hospital that I was at, we brought a lot of mental health patients were brought in, and they were brought in on CITs and the whole 9 yards. And so there was a lot of violent encounters with people, and I would have to go in with the nurses to check on these patients. So if a nurse was in there, I was in there too, and there was a lot of times where these patients would try to attack the nurses. So there was a lot of violent encounters at that time. But I did this when I worked that job. I did this when I went and worked at a prison, and I even did this when I was working in EMS in the city. You kind of have to play this game with yourself where you're running scenarios through your head. And
Mm.
like I said, I've done this for a long time and it's actually paid off quite a few times. I will sit there and I'll run these scenarios. So, like, okay, I'm sitting in my truck, I'm waiting for a call. What would I do if somebody approached my window with a firearm? Or I'm sitting at a restaurant. What would I do if somebody came in here and started to rob the place, or at a gas station or whatever? You run these various scenarios through your head to help prepare yourself for the worst case scenario. You can call it crazy, you can call it psychotic, you can call it whatever you want. I call it being prepared. And I would much rather run through as many different scenarios in my head as possible than not run through any. And like I said, it's paid off before because I've had one of those scenarios that I've ran through my head before and it paid off. But I think that's one of the big things we need to do is start with those things, being prepared. And I think we'll touch on some others here in just a minute.
Yeah. And I think knowing your surroundings is huge. But one big thing, I always tell people full tank of gas wherever you're going, have a full tank of gas and full charge on your cell phone, but also knowing a few numbers by heart of close friends or family members is huge because you never know. But really, knowing your surroundings, remembering where you parked, looking at everyone, for me, I think we're probably the same way in a restaurant. I'm like, threat, not a threat. He's probably armed. And I'm always like, what doesn't belong? If it's 80 degrees out and there's a dude walking into somewhere with a trench coat, that does not belong. I mean, that's obvious. Or say it's sub-degree temperatures and someone's walking into a church and they're sweating profusely. That's not normal behavior. Could it be they just got some really bad news? Could be. Over the holidays, I do security on the side. Had an instance where a young man was at a church function, he was not acting right. I positioned my guys where they needed to be. I'm not going to give out my secrets, but basically, I took the high ground though, so I had the overwatch position. This guy did not belong. He was doing a lot of things. He'd never been there before, and he was given like a welcome package. He walked away without it. To me, that was a huge red flag. Why would you do that?
Yeah, that's weird.
So we continued to just observe. We didn't want to cause a panic. No one knew this was happening anywhere in the front lobby. But long story short, he had a mental illness and he was there to meet a family friend and they weren't there. So he was lost. But it was one of those, we knew it. I communicated it and I had coworkers with me and we took care of it. But that's just what you have to do no matter where you are. And it's sad to say, because I always feel like I'm never really in the green when I'm out. Like I'm in the green when I'm home, or if I'm surrounded by like 30 cops, then I'm somewhat in the green. But when I'm out and about, I'm always in that yellow phase. But then little things happen, then all of a sudden I'm in the red phase. And for my kids, they know if I say let's go, it's not up for discussion. It's get with me. We're leaving now. I've seen something that I do not like.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, you know, Christians like Eric and I, if you think that you're supposed to just accept something that's going to happen, let me give you some information that will hopefully change your mind. A lot of this stuff is things that aren't talked about on the news. So already 2026, okay? This is from the Vatican. This is Vatican news. More than 388 million Christians, that's 1 in 7 worldwide, face high levels of persecution and discrimination. This is an increase of 8 million from the previous year, and it's the highest record. In the top 50 countries on this list alone, 315 million face very high or extreme persecution. The overall persecution score for these countries hit a record 3,810 points, which is up 35 from 2025. Violent statistics, these are verified incidents. 149 Christians have been murdered for their faith, up from 176 the prior year. 712 have been detained or arrested. 632 churches or Christian properties have been attacked. 124,129 Christians have been displaced or forced to flee as refugees. 93% of faith related murders occurred in sub Saharan Africa. Nigeria alone accounted for 3,490 killings, which is up from 3,100. Other hotspots include North Korea, Somalia. Just going to pause on that one for a second.
Right.
Yemen and Syria. So if the first thing that pops in your head is, well, yeah, those countries make sense. Like North Korea, yeah, they're communists. Of course they're going to go after it. Africa, yeah, they've been having problems with people for years. Somalia, yeah, it's all pirates. Yemen, we know that's a terrorist hotbed. If your thought is that those are other countries and that won't happen here, I strongly urge you to think otherwise. Because if there's anything we've learned just in the last couple years, is tensions are starting to rise in the United States every single day. Things are getting worse. We already saw what happened in Minneapolis not that long ago, where a group of people came in and started screaming and hollering inside a church. And nobody in there was prepared for that. Nobody knew what to do. Everybody just kind of froze, except for the pastor. I'll give the pastor credit on that one. He went up and stood toe to toe with the loudmouth that was there. And I thought he was going to throw down at first. I'm like, oh, this guy, He ain't messing around. And I don't care what the reason was. I don't care if one of the pastors is an ICE agent or not. I really don't care. The point is, we have laws in place for a reason, and churches should be off limits. I don't care if it's a Christian church, a Catholic church. I don't care if it's Muslim, Buddhist. I don't care if it's Jewish. Churches are off limits. We have a right here in the United States to be able to worship wherever we want, whenever we want. You don't have a right to come in and stop us because you don't agree with something. So, again, if you think this stuff can't happen here, I got news for you. It's already been happening here. There's been attacks on churches in Michigan. There's been attacks on churches out west. It happens more often than you think, and you need to prepare yourself.
And a lot of times people don't know how close we are to attacks that get prevented by, good Samaritans, law enforcement seeing something and either calling it in, or if it's law enforcement acting on the threat before it becomes a real problem. And it is becoming more prominent. I mean, we just had the attack in Texas this week too, and they're still looking at that as it was a possible terrorist attack. Now, was it a sleeper cell, or was it, you know, lone gunman domestic terrorism? Does it really matter? Yes and no, but I think it just proves we need to keep our eyes open.
So, let me just share some of these stories with you of things that have happened in the US. So, the Annunciation Catholic Church school shooting in Minneapolis, Minnesota, August of 2025. Shooter opened fire
Mhm.
during Mass at this Catholic parish, killing two children, ages 8 and 10, and injuring 21 others, including many kids from the attached school. The attacker, reportedly a former student, died by suicide, one of the deadliest recent incidents at a U.S. church. How many people can say that they saw that on the news?
Very briefly.
Grand Blanc Lot. Yeah, let's try that again. Grand Blanc Ladder Day Saint Church attack in Michigan, September of 2025. Gunman rammed his truck into the church building, opened fire with an automatic weapon. I question that. Injuring multiple congregants, including a child, then set the building on fire with gasoline. Church members heroically protected children and evacuated. Police killed the assailant in the parking lot. Authorities cited hatred toward the Latter day Saint faith as a motive. I vaguely remember hearing about that one.
Yeah.
Cross Point Community Church in Wayne, Michigan, June of 2025. Heavily armed man, camouflage, tactical vest, AR 15 style rifle, multiple magazines, attempted a mass shooting during a Sunday service with the children present for vacation Bible school. A church security officer shot and killed him before he could enter and harm anyone. Good for him. Richmond Road Baptist Church in Lexington, Kentucky, July of 2025. A gunman opened fire, killing two women congregants and wounding the pastor who survived. Suspect was fatally shot by law enforcement. I could continue on because the list keeps going, but we don't hear about these very often. Point being, it doesn't matter if we hear about these on the news or not. People need to prepare themselves, and you need to consider worst case scenario. What else we got? What other things can people do to prepare themselves? Obviously, we've talked before about bug out kits, and we've talked about firearm training, meetup locations, different technologies out there. There's so many different things that we can do.
Yeah. Vehicle placement, if you're in an unknown location, pinning your location, you can do that on your phone. I've done it down in at Lucas Oil, where you gotta park in one of those, side streets. I'll pin my vehicle location so that way I know exactly where I'm going. 3 hours later, you're not gonna remember where you parked. I've done that in Vegas with a rental car. Just take a picture, where the elevator is. They'll put, if it's, third level red zone or whatever, or if you're in a big parking lot, take a picture. Look up. They have markings. Even our Meyer, the grocery store, they have them. Just really honestly read up on this stuff. You know, Everything that you have read, it's it's easy to find if you know where to look.
Yeah. And right now, everything's extremely easy to find. All you got to do is go to Chat GPT or Grok or whatever, and you can type all this stuff in. I will say I've quizzed my
Mhm.
wife before when we're out driving, and I'll be like, "Hey, what intersection did we just pass?" And at first, she used to be like, "Well, I don't know." Know where you're at. Know what street you're on, your closest intersection. Even if you go to Vegas or you go somewhere out of state. Let's say
Mhm.
you're going to a football game in a different state. Let's say you're going to Chicago. Take the extra 20 minutes before you even go and look at a map. I know maps are hard to come by now because nobody seems to have them. But look at a map and familiarize yourself a little bit with the streets that are around where you're going to be at. Know what street is going to take you where. Know where you can go if something horrible happens and how long it'll take you. There are emergency
Hospitals.
exits, hospitals. There are emergency exits all over the place. Know where your closest emergent or where your closest exit is. Know what rooms you could go into if something happens, where you can hide. But you have to have a plan, right? And like you said, talk with your family, come up with a game plan. What are we going to do if something happens when we're here? Where are we going to meet up at? All these different things. You need to have some sort of plan. Let's spend like 5 quick minutes and let's talk about bug out kits. What does a bug out kit look like? And what somebody who is just getting started, like say somebody is interested in creating one, but they don't really have a budget to, you know, buy the really fancy filter straws and, all that stuff. What
Yeah.
should they definitely have immediately when they're creating a bug out kit?
So a bug out kit could be anything, as far as just a means to get yourself out of an emergency situation. Now, even so, if you're a mom in a vehicle in the wintertime, that could be anything from having extra blankets, having a sleeping bag rolled up, something to keep your kids warm, extra um, blankets, pillows, and gloves, hats. But also, if it's summertime or even wintertime, having the extra water, food, food that's going to be sustainable. But the main thing is, you want to have some sort of backpack and get yourself, a first aid kit. And it depends on what you're going to do. For my family, we do a lot of hiking. So I have first aid kits that have everything from, bee stings, the little stuff you can spray on your kids, if they get a bee sting or, anything for ticks or anything like that, the band-aids. But then also you want to go to tourniquets, but knowing how to use all that too. My I actually have mine, this would be considered my bug out kit. It's a hiking pack. This goes in my vehicle wherever I go. And I've just added things to it over the years. But the main thing is, you want to have, a container because you want to have something to hold water. You want to have cordage. You want to have some sort of rope. That could even be something. This is 550 cord. And literally, these things were the craze, I think, 10 years ago?
Everybody had
Just
one.
the survive. I still have one. This thing has a whistle on it too, which is awesome. That's why I wear it because for work, a lot of times I end up in the woods, looking for people. But you want to have a cutting tool. You want to have just a down and dirty knife. Doesn't matter it doesn't have to be a Dom Rosso special. I mean, he makes great knives. I can't afford them right now.
Rambo knife.
Rambo knife. Doesn't have to be just a quick knife that you know how to use.
Please don't carry
You want
butterfly knives. Please.
no.
Those
Yeah,
are
we talked
awful.
about that.
Yeah.
Those, yeah, and know your laws too, as far as carrying. My thing is, I always want to have a combustion device, a lighter, ferro rod, metal match. All those things are great. I am not Cody Lundeen. I can't make a fire out of sticks. I'm sorry. I was a Boy
I
Scout.
can't
I
either.
never got good at that. You want to have some sort of cover. That bug out bag that I have, it has a one person tent in there. It has an emergency blanket, and really, I know someone's gonna yell at me for forgetting something, but those are the main things that you want, because the other thing I have in there is I always have trail mix of some sort and beef jerky and water. I always carry water with me. Just something with calories to get you out of the situation. And I know it sounds like, not trying to go into the whole prepper thing, although I think a lot of those books are good to have. But the main thing is get the knowledge. Clint Emerson has great books out there, The 100 Deadly Skills. He has a couple different versions. He has The Survivor, which talks about the main things that I was talking about, but he also has different fighting techniques in another book. But I learned a lot of this stuff just growing up in the Boy Scouts, military, and then also just being an avid hiker and the experience. Just these are the things that I want. And like you said, you can get the cool little water filtration thing that just, who's going to be drinking out of a stream?
Well, and if it comes down to that, I would hope that wherever you're living, you have somewhat of an idea of how your water sources are around you and what water source you can trust and what you can't. I will add a couple things. Whatever you put into a bag, make sure you keep track of like expiration and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Whether, if you have a list hanging up on the fridge or whatever the case may be, make sure you're replacing those every so often. The other thing was I lost it. I don't remember what it was now. But I think what's important is know what is in your bag and know how to use it. Don't just buy
Ninja.
something that you saw in a YouTube video and you thought, "Oh, that's a good idea," and then buy it and you throw it in there. Like a ferro rod, if you don't know how to use a ferro
Mm-hmm.
rod, which I am one, I'm not very good at it. That's why I carry lighters and I carry material that lights very easily. If you don't know how to use one, like me, then learn how to use one. Take a couple seconds because you would have to light a crap ton of fires for that to not work. And I can tell you, you're probably not ever going to run into that scenario. So know how the stuff works that you're keeping and that you're using. Expiration dates, know that stuff. Yeah, I think those are the big things. I don't unless you really want to. I don't think anybody needs to immediately rush out. I know there's a lot of uncertainty right now with this whole Iran, Israel, and the United States crap going on, and now Russia apparently is in on the mix and potentially China and all that. I don't think we need to worry about the fear mongering at this moment in time. I don't think we all need to rush to the first website that we find and start stocking up on a year's worth of and order 5 years worth. Like I don't think we're there yet. But I think there are some things that everybody should do, like putting a bug out kit together. Those are things that you can use. Hell, keep it in your car and you get into a car accident, you've got stuff in case, you're out in the middle of nowhere. But training, like we mentioned several times, firearm training, self-defense training, emergency preparedness plans, all of those things, those are things that we should all be doing already. And if you're
First
not,
aid.
first aid, like learn some of these skills because these are skills that you could use at any time. It doesn't have to be
Mm-hmm.
a big nuclear war, doomsday war going on for you to use these skills. These are things that you can use every single day.
I will say, I'd say we don't get plugs, but I read the Going Home series prior to COVID, and that was by a American Chris Weatherman, and he's a prepper. But what was funny was it got me thinking about things. And when COVID hit, I didn't have, I had a bug out bag already. It was my hiking pack. It literally just turned it. I changed the name from hiking pack to bug out bag, but I didn't worry about toilet paper because I had it. I didn't worry about food because I had it. I didn't have years worth. I literally had 2 weeks worth of food. When that hit, I really, we didn't worry about it. I'm like, I've got food and I've got ammo. I'm good. I'm good to go. And I've got first aid stuff. So I knew my family was going to be okay. But that's just what you have to think about. And again, like we said, the education's out there. You just have to willing to go put the little bit of time in, and audiobooks are great, podcasts are great. You can do this while you're at work. Listen to these things and then comprehend what they're telling you and throw away the garbage and then just take what is good.
Yep. Yeah. And I think, I have some plans of things that I'm going to do this summer. Continuing getting better in shape is always at the top of my list. But I'm hoping that since my wife had her knee replacement, that we can start doing some hiking trips and doing some more camping and things like that. That's kind of on my list. I want to do some more bicycling and things like that too. Camping is one of the big ones. I haven't done it since I was a kid, so I really want to get back into that. Yeah, and you have given me some book ideas of things to read, um,
Mhm.
as if my list wasn't big enough already. But
I will say also, I'm looking at your hat and my hat. That's the other thing you can think about when you're out in public. What are you wearing?
yeah,
You've got an American flag on. If I see that, I'm thinking he's probably armed. Now, that can be a good thing and a bad thing, but a beard and a good ball cap usually equals he's a Second Amendment person. But anyway,
I will say too, a lot of times. So there was while we wrap all this up, there was a guy. Man, I don't remember who it was now. He was a well-known serial killer.
mm,
Hold on, and I can edit this out too. Yeah, I don't remember who it was. I think it might have been a guy by the name of Jack Reynolds, but it was whoever this individual was, he was a child predator. I mean, it might have been Ed Gein, I don't know. But they interviewed this guy, somebody interviewed this guy, and this was several years ago. And he was
mhm,
asked, "How do you pick your victims?" And his
mhm,
response was, "Well, I look at the family. I look at, is the dad present? I look
mhm,
at how the dad carries himself. I look at how much time does the dad spend with the kid?" And I remember I heard that interview years ago, way before my kid was born. And I made a decision then. I think I was in my 20s, like early 20s. But I made the decision then of how I was going to carry myself whenever I'm walking around. And whenever I'm walking, I'm standing up straight. I know everything that's around me, but the way that I walk, and I've even been called out on this before, but the way that I walk spells things out that I'm not somebody that is looking to I'm not the type of person that you want to fuck with, basically. Not trying to pat my own back, not trying to toot my own horn. That's just how I act. And I've had people ask me, like, were you in the military? Nope. Like, it's to the point where my kid goes, Dad, why does everybody keep asking you if you were in the military? It's because of how I handle myself. It's because of how I act when I'm out in public. So if you're a dad, understand this, that if you're sitting there and you're walking through the store and you're just staring at your phone and you're not paying attention to anything, other people are seeing that. So if there are child predators around, which chances are there are, they're watching you. They're watching to see what you're doing. Moms, it's the same for you. If you're walking around staring at your phone or you're talking on the phone and you're not paying attention to your kids, you're not keeping them close. When we go to a store, my kid does not run up and down the aisleways. My kid stays with me. He does not leave my side because I don't trust people. There was a video not that long ago where a mom was walking in with her, I think 1 or 2 year old, and this
yes,
guy, I think it was over in, I don't know, it was over in Europe somewhere, and she was walking in with 1 year old, 2 year old, and this guy tries to grab her. Luckily, she had a good hold on her kid's arm. Kid ended up breaking
mhm,
breaking her arm, but she had a good hold on her or breaking her leg. And other people saw what was going on and they jumped in and attacked this guy. You're not going to be able to do that if you're staring at your phone. So people need to quit
mhm.
staring at their phones. You need to know what's going on around you. You need to be prepared. You need to walk like you own the place and walk with a purpose.
Make eye contact.
Yes.
People look down a lot. I notice people look down a lot.
Yeah. The
I make eye
floor's not
contact.
moving. Floor's not moving.
Yeah, yeah. I make eye contact with anyone now that goes against me sometimes because a lot of times I don't know what it is. I if I'm in the stores, I always get the little old lady that says, "Sir, can you reach up and get that for me?"
Yeah, I
I
get
do.
that too.
I'm not mean, but
Mhm.
it's still funny though because that works, you know, good. And then all of a sudden, sometimes it's like, well, hey, that I made contact because they're looking for help, and there's someone who made eye contact with me because everyone else doesn't want to help that lady. But here I am. I look at everyone,
Yeah.
and it said, but it's always the little things that can go towards keeping you and yourself or keeping you and your loved ones safe.
I think that wraps us up. You got anything else you wanna chat about?
Now, like I said, we went down some rabbit holes, but it's awesome. Always
Yeah.
great talking to you.
Yeah, so I will say this, that I'm in the works to hopefully make some changes with this show a little bit. Not gonna give any more information because nothing's set in stone yet, but I'm hoping some things will help tremendously with this show. One thing that I've wanted to do for a long time is I wanted to do more than one episode a week, try to get some more episodes out there. So I'm hoping here soon can make that happen somehow. I am in talks with some people for some really good interviews coming up, hopefully. Got to do some follow up on that. But I think right now, the main thing that I want to talk about and I want to talk about often is I want to help people prepare for worst case scenario. I want people
Mhm.
to be aware of what's going on. I'm not getting political by any means. I don't do politics, want nothing to do with it. But I think the only way, not the only way, the best way that we're going to be able to fight evil is by talking about it. And I think we need to talk about it more. We need to talk about human trafficking. We need to talk about these people that are stealing kids. We need to talk about this potentially 20,000 sleeper cells that are in our country right now. We need to talk more about self defense and preparing. And I think I'm hoping this summer I can get some good videos put together, hopefully working with Eric and maybe some other people and get some videos on shooting and that sort of thing so we can start sharing some of that stuff too. So be on
Absolutely.
the lookout for that
Looking forward to it.
for sure. With that, I think that's it. If you are in a position where you're like, man, I'm just tired of seeing all this evil. I don't know what to do. I am going to invite you to your closest church. Start going to church. That's one of the best ways that we're going to be able to fight this because a lot of this is spiritual warfare. And that's something that I want to talk about at some point too. But a lot of this is spiritual warfare. And I've been getting real heavy at making sure I'm going every week. My family and I go every week. I started doing a Bible study once a week as well. That's actually been a lot of fun. But join church, start participating in your church, do something. It doesn't have to be a Bible study. Maybe it's just coffee and donuts or I don't know. Sorry, Eric, didn't mean to,
I like donuts.
but
Better be
do
good ones.
something. I think we all need a little bit of positivity in our life and get a lot of positivity just from going to church every week. It's an hour.
Yep. It's
Doesn't
an hour
matter.
every day, and I do a Bible study too.
Do you? Yeah. I mean,
Uh-huh. Once a week.
I've even thought about doing, an episode once a month where we do some kind of Bible study on here and get some people in on it. I don't know. Who knows? This show is up in the open and we can do whatever we want because I am not being told what I can and cannot say. So,
I love it, man. It's always a pleasure.
yeah, for sure. Well, thanks, Eric. Appreciate you joining me this week. Hopefully, we'll get Cody on next week.
Good talking to you, Tyler. Doing good things.
Thanks, brother.
Mhm.